Wake up. Wake up. It's time to get up. But Mom, I'm tired and I don't want to get up. But you have to serve today. The people of God, they're waiting for you at church. And Jesus is counting on you. I was 12 years old, and I went to St. Thomas More as a faithful altar boy at that parish. And, it was summer vacation, so I didn't really want to get up out of bed and go serve Mass that morning. And so but I did, that's what good faithful Catholics do. You get up and go anyway. And on that particular Sunday morning, I don't know if it was because it was summer vacation and I wasn't feeling it, or just because I was at that cantankerous ripe age of 12, but I had this poisonous thought that entered my mind. As I sat next to the priest and the deacon and Mass began, this poisonous thought was, what if all of this is a big scam? What if this is a big sham? What if some man named Jesus 2,000 years ago just happened to be a con artist that got all the right numbers and all the right chords and all this stuff, all this pageantry and all of these things that we do as Catholics wasn't really what God intended. And so as a 12-year-old boy who didn't know any better, don't judge, I closed my eyes and I said a prayer. I said, God, please don't let that be true. Send me a sign. Show me that you're really, really real. Not just some kind of coincidental sign, but something really tangible. Show me that you care about me and that you are really as powerful and as big as they say. And show me that you care about me personally, not just us as a group. And that all of this stuff that we do every week is for real. And I said, now, if you do that for me, God, I'll make you a trade. I'll never doubt you again. Well, but if that's going to be the trade, it has to be good. Whatever the sign is, it can't just be something in the readings that people doubted and then they came to believe. That's all over the Bible. That could just come up by coincidence. So it's got to be something real, something tangible. So I offered some suggestions to God on what I thought that might be. I noticed that the back doors to the church were open, so I thought, gosh, if a dove flew in and landed on the crucifix up front, that would be a good one. That would count. Or maybe if I was looking at the crucifix and it, gave me a nod or a wink or something, that would really count, Or maybe if something caught on fire, that would be good because, that's in your playbook, right? God, you did that for Moses, the burning bush. So maybe something could catch on fire. That would really tell me that you're really real and you're really here and really present. And so, we kind of sealed the deal, and I watched throughout all of Mass for my sign, and I really expected it to come. I was watching like a hawk, through the readings and through the Eucharistic prayers and throughout that process, I was really, kind of expecting that sign with that, I guess, that faith of a child that you're supposed to have. And Mass went on, and I kept looking and watching, and no statues were winking, and nothing was catching on fire. So, I started to wonder. I started to have doubts. I started to wonder what is all of this that we do. And as Mass drew to a close and we began singing the hymn at the end, I started to get really concerned. And so I threw another prayer up. I said, all right, God, now don't forget we have this deal, and Mass is almost over, so it's time. It's time to show up, all right? It's time to do your thing. I mean, I know you can do it. I just need that sign. Well, as we processed out of the parish, out of the church, my hope and optimism turned into anger because there was no sign. I exited and I got really mad, and I thought to myself, yeah, sure, all this stuff, all this time, and it's not true. There's a flaw. There's a flaw somewhere. Either God isn't real, or maybe He is, but He just doesn't care about me, or maybe He does, but this whole Catholic twist isn't the right approach. So I waited for people to leave. I got the candle putter outer to get the candles, and in those days the altar boys did the dishes, so I had to wait for the people to leave and would go grab the linens and the ciborium that were used. So as people were leaving and I went back in, I kind of started to formulate this plan. Like, now that I've reached this scientific conclusion that God isn't really real, all this pageantry is, I can't go through this anymore. I can't keep doing this. But I realized that, well, my dad, he's sold. He's like hook, line, and sinker. So I'm probably going to have to go through the motions at least until I move out, and then I won't have to do this anymore. With all the wisdom of a 12-year-old, right? And as I gathered the ciborium and were walking back out of the church, a chill came over me, because I realized that this whole time I was having a conversation with nobody, that God wasn't there. It was empty. And I had never felt more alone than in that moment as I was walking back out of the church. I felt like things that I had counted on and built upon had let me down and were empty. When I got back to the sacristy, I was pretty upset at that point. And then something absolutely miraculous happened. I opened one of the ciborium, and it was full to the brim. Now, I don't know how to communicate to you how sure I am that God replayed the miracle of the multiplication of the loaves for me on that day, because you weren't there and you couldn't experience that. And I realized that something really interesting had happened, that I had asked for a sign for me, not for everybody, so that nobody else would understand what had taken place. It really didn't matter. I motioned for the Deacon John Cecilia, actually, who's right here with us today, and said, "Oh my gosh!" And he came, grabbed it, went straight to the tabernacle, and came back, and he said, "Well, how many ciborium did we put out before Mass?" Well, 3 is how many we always put out. Well, I thought I must have put an empty one in the tackle box. Well, the tabernacle. If you're going fishing for men, you got to have your tackle box. But anyway, but they were all full. So I don't understand what happened. Well, he kind of shrugged it off, and I was mortified. I was terrified by what happened. I didn't tell anybody about this for a very long time. And I share this story with you today because I want to make 3 connections between that experience of church that I had at a young age and the Know, Love, Serve process that we are beginning today. The first one is I had some expectations. I had these expectations that God was going to put on this great big show for me, right? And that he was going to do something really amazing. And I guess, our culture kind of sets us up for that, to think that power comes in pyrotechnics. I really wanted that fire. But that isn't how God works. It's not in these big, fancy, explosive programs, but it's in these silent whispers and nudges, these ways that he touches our lives that we just don't expect. And they're so much more profound than anything I came up with. I mean, at that moment where I was the most sure that I was more alone than I'd ever been in my life, I held Jesus Christ in my very hand and didn't know it. So profound, the way that response came. So I think as it relates to know, love, serve, I would encourage you not to have expectations on what's going to happen. The bishop said at the beginning of the day today that we should be prepared to be surprised. And I think we should. I don't think we should be expecting some kind of big change that is showy. I think what we're going for here is a change that is much more profound. It's a change of heart, not a change of buildings or of that sort of superficial, surfacey stuff that a lot of frankly, a lot of other faiths kind of lean towards and depend on. The second observation that I'd like to make from that experience is that I made God a promise that I would never doubt again. Now, I've been in confessional booths with some of the people here, and you guys know that's not the case. And salvation history is that, right? It's God making promises and keeping them, and God's people not really keeping up their end of the bargain. When I made that promise, I had every intention of keeping it. I really thought that I would never doubt again. But, I got a little bit older and the world kind of got hold. And I think that happens to all of us in some way, shape, or form. That we begin with a very earnest and passionate desire for and zeal for God and for Christ's church. And, then the world happens and it beats us down and we get cynical. I've heard rumors that there are jokes buzzing around about the Know, Love, Serve program, that people are saying it's no love, just serve. Well, that's pretty clever. But for people that like play on words, I would like to offer another one. And that is cynical. Well, obviously, sin is the beginning, is the first part of that play on words. I think that being cynical is falling prey to the sin of despair and losing hope in future and in the future that this church has. And nickel, well, it's about the most worthless of the precious metals there are. So, it's a pretty worthless, being cynical is a pretty worthless thing. So how does that happen? Well, the world happens, and we find ourselves, really kind of feeling like, well, I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the energy to live up to where my original promise. And I think that this gathering that we have, I hope will act as a moment of reflection to sort of weed those things out. If you have some of that cynicism, then I would recommend you check yourself before you wreck yourself. The third reflection that I'd like to tie into to this process is that the sign that I received was profoundly Catholic in its nature. If it was a burning bush kind of thing, it would have been easy to tie that in as a biblical sign, not a Catholic sign. But the Holy Eucharist is, of course, a very distinctly Catholic symbol, because ultimately my doubt was occurring on many levels. And one of them is Catholicism the expression of faith that God wants from us? And was the Catholic Church something that Jesus really intended to establish? And I think that answer came back as a resounding yes, with the Eucharist being the answer. But I think that in a special way, or in a certain way, we've kind of lost touch with the things that are distinctly Catholic about our identity. I feel like on some level, as a layperson, that, with the sex abuse scandal and the other things, the last 5 to 10 years have been really difficult to be a Catholic in the Spokane area. Father Miguel told a story at one of our meetings that I thought was really interesting and telling. He was going to the prison. He was visiting. Just want to be clear on that. Visiting the inmates. And he was checking in, and was a new guard that day, and said, "Well, what are all these things that you're bringing in here? What is all this?" And he explained, "Well, I'm a Catholic priest, and I'm going to do Mass for the inmates." And the gal that was checking him in did this. "I'm Catholic too." Now, I think on some level we've kind of been made to feel like we shouldn't be proud to be Catholic anymore. Like we've been in the penalty box for a couple of years now, and the media and the whether that's the newspaper or the TV stations in town have made us feel like we shouldn't be proud to be Catholic. And folks, that's crazy. The Catholic Church is amazing. When you look at the things that the Catholic Church has done for the world, we gave the rule of law. We created the scientific method. Your calendar, that's a Gregorian calendar named after a pope. Catholics have impacted the world in so many amazing ways. Why on earth should we be ashamed to be Catholic? We shouldn't be. Because of a couple of men who betrayed their faith, we failed to stand up and say, that's not what Catholicism is, and that's not what we stand for. But I think it's time for us to come out of the penalty box. In the seasons and rhythms that occur in the culture and the modern day, it's time. It's time for us to be proud of who we are once again. When you look at like natural disasters that occur, who was the first people after Katrina hit, or Sri Lanka? It was Catholic Relief Services. Catholics were there first. When you look at Spokane, what organization feeds the hungry, clothes the naked, and gives shelter to the homeless more than Catholic Charities in Spokane? 2 of the 4 hospitals in Spokane are Catholic. You guys were everywhere. And we have a hugely positive impact on this community, and we don't need to be ashamed of that. I, for one, am tired of being ashamed of that, or at least being made to feel like I should be ashamed. So I think it's time that we, as a community, and using the Know, Love, Serve process, come alive again. I think if we listen, we have some really great things to offer that we haven't really been tapping into, and I think it's time for us to wake up. I think if we listen to the whispers of our Mother Mary, our spiritual Mother Mary, she's saying the same thing that my mom prefigured 20-some years ago. Wake up. Wake up. It's time. I know you're tired, but you have to serve today. The people of God need you, and Jesus needs you. God bless you.